It's been 10 years since 3-year-old William Tyrrell went missing from his foster grandmother's house on the New South Wales North Coast. Now, in a short few weeks, a long-stalled coronial inquest will reopen, and it's crunch time for New South Wales Police, who for the past 4 years have been implicating William's foster mother, alleging she had something to do with his disappearance. Tonight, senior investigators take us through the case for and against her. If there's an image burned into the Australian consciousness, it's 3-year-old William Tyrrell, the little boy in the Spider-Man suit.
He was playing. He was having fun. He was
in his Spider-Man outfit.
in his Spider-Man outfit playing Daddy Tiger.
The voices of William's foster parents describing the terrible morning of September 12, 2014.
I think back to that moment where I just went, I can't hear him.
Sometime between 10 and 10:25 a.m, William disappears from his foster grandmother's house on New South Wales mid-north coast.
And I've just walked out and I just see nothing.
William?
I see nothing. I hear nothing.
William!
Now, police have William's foster mum in their sights.
I have a vision in my head. Somebody reached over and I sort of feel like they've gone clump on his shoulders, picked him up and moved him on, because to me, that's the only way I can explain for him not to be there.
Tonight, we'll investigate the case for and against her and ask, have the police got it right? What went wrong with the investigation?
Happy birthday, William.
Police emergency, this is Simone.
Yeah, hi, my son is missing. He's 3.5. Sorry,
Your address?
Centreroom Drive, Kendall.
Okay, Benneroom Drive in Kendall.
Yes.
All right, I'm just going to bring that up on my map. I won't be a moment.
Thank you.
There's a desperate search. Hundreds of SES volunteers, neighbours and police. But not a trace of William is found.
A team of 30 investigators is now taking the lead in the hunt to find William.
New South Wales Police launched Strike Force Roseanne to investigate what is rapidly looking like an abduction, or worse.
Pretty quickly it became, increasingly worrying.
Former New South Wales Police Assistant Commissioner Mick first oversaw the William Tyrrell investigation as head of the Homicide Division. So as those early days went on without finding William, it was handed over to Homicide?
Yeah, that's right. We didn't publicise that because at the time, involving Homicide in a particular job would create a narrative out in the public, which was very difficult to control. But we were involved from about a week onwards.
For 4 long days, an army of volunteers and police have searched for little William Tyrrell, and still not a single clue.
We'll continue with a very open mind and we'll look at all avenues.
Go, William.
Gary, September 12, 2024, William disappears from this house. What do you look for at the scene?
The house and the area where William disappeared from, you could consider that ground zero.
Former New South Wales homicide detective Gary Jubelin led Police Strike Force Roseanne for 4 years. It does haunt you, though.
It does haunt me. There's not a day that goes by when I'm not thinking about William Tyrrell.
Ready, set,
Or someone's asking me questions about William Tyrrell.
Gary has always believed William was taken. So not misadventure, not a case of William wandering off and getting lost in the bush, for example.
No, and I came to that conclusion on the basis of what was searched during the time of William's disappearance, the initial search, and then the further forensic search that was conducted in 2018. We covered an area during that period that an area that William couldn't have gone past.
Up the hill would have taken him a bit of time. Little tiny legs for a 3-year-old. Heavy bushland, almost on every other side of the house bar the front yard.
Yeah.
If he'd gone in those directions, into the bushland or up the hill, do you believe he would have been found?
I believe he would have been found.
Gary formed the belief that William heard a car and thought it was his foster dad returning home.
At the time of William's disappearance, he was becoming bored, and he was told that his father would be home soon. Then he was seen to go around the side of the premises.
According to Gary, a compelling witness was William's sister.
I held a lot of weight on the fact that William's sister, at the time when she was interviewed by people that had the appropriate skills to interview a child of that age, made the comment that looking for Daddy's car.
And that stuck with you, hasn't it, that she said that?
Yeah, well, if you're looking at communications, the honesty of a 5-year-old child is, the fact that where possibly could have William gone.
Gary continues to hold the view that a predator in the mystery car kidnapped William. But it's history that Gary Jubelin was taken off the case and left the New South Wales Police Force in controversial circumstances for illegally recording a person he suspected.
When Gary Jubelin left the investigation, he was focused on one local man particularly, and he had tasked one of the detectives to look at another guy. We've never heard why the inquest or why the police steered away from those people.
What if I told you everything you thought you knew about the disappearance of William Tyrrell was wrong?
News Corp journalist Dan Box has spent 4 years investigating the case for a newly released podcast called Witness William Tyrrell. He's troubled by a shift in the police investigation, which began with a new search of the Tyrrell house in 2021.
It was incredible in scale and intensity. They dug up tons and tons of earth and sieved it. They covered a huge amount of bush. I can only guess at what the cost would have been, but it's in the millions, I'm sure. Why were they so convinced they needed to deploy that amount of resource to it? Particularly when there was another 4-week forensic search done 3 years earlier. So why go back and do it again? What did they know, or what did they suspect?
That earlier search, in 2018, was conducted by Gary Jubelin when he led the investigation.
Why they were searching, why they made such a public spectacle of the search, I can't answer that. I can say from my point of view, I was looking at the areas they were searching, the areas that had been searched before, twice.
Granting the media unprecedented access, police suggested William had fallen from the balcony, then his body had been disposed of. That scenario clearly implicated William's foster mother. But in the end, the search that began so confidently ended in virtual silence. What did they find?
Well, as far as I know, they found nothing, but bearing in mind, I'm looking from the outside. They did say that they found certain items that needed forensic testing, but the time certainly passed for that.
So you believe they may have had a focus at that time, but got nothing?
Yeah, it's possible, but we don't know. Because again, of the secrecy surrounding this case, we have heard nothing from them since.
Nothing about what they did or didn't find. But 18 months later, someone inside the police department broke the secrecy with very deliberate leaks to the media.
There's breaking news tonight on the William Tyrrell mystery, with reports that detectives in New South Wales are now confident there's enough evidence to charge his foster mother over the toddler's disappearance.
They had presented the New South Wales Director of Public Prosecutions with a brief of evidence recommending William's foster mother be charged for covering up his death.
The now 58-year-old woman has always denied any involvement in William Tyrrell's disappearance.
One of the characteristics of this investigation has been the leaking of information in relation to the foster mother being the sole suspect. What's your view of that?
Those leaks, sometimes in homicide investigations, are done intentionally. Other times they're not. I can't comment on this one. I don't know who or what were involved in the leaking of information about the foster mother.
Dan, the leak of the brief of evidence going to the Director of Public Prosecution, suggesting that the mother was about to be charged, the foster mother was about to be charged imminently. What did you make of that tactic?
I don't know if it was a tactic. And you have to wonder who leaked that information, because my understanding is the detectives investigating William's disappearance were horrified that it got out, and they weren't expecting it. So there was someone potentially above them in the police force who leaked information about William's foster mother without checking with the detectives running that investigation.
Are you frustrated with the police with this investigation?
But whoever the source of the leak was, and the police have shown no appetite to find out, what of the evidence implicating the foster mother?
If the police want to say that someone was involved in William's disappearance, and if that person is William's foster mother, they have to be certain that all the other people who might have been involved definitely weren't. They have to actually be able to prove that. And I haven't seen the evidence that they can.
Next, what do police have on the foster mother? We test the case against her. Has that been a mistake or a flaw in the current investigation? Tonight, we're investigating the police investigation into the disappearance of William Tyrrell. An investigation that, as we've shown, is targeting William's foster mother.
They have to actually be able to prove that. And I haven't seen the evidence that they can.
But have police effectively put the foster mum on public trial?
That detectives in New South Wales are now confident there's enough evidence to charge his foster mother over the toddler's disappearance.
By leaking details of a brief of evidence they claim could convict her of involvement in William's disappearance.
I think it's a case of put up or shut up.
Former head of the New South Wales Homicide Squad, Mick first oversaw the investigation into William's disappearance. The focus of the current investigators has been almost solely on the foster mother, that she knows something about William's disappearance. Has that been a mistake or a flaw in the current investigation?
No, I don't know whether or not other suspects have been focused on it all.
Based on what the current investigators have said publicly, that seems to have been the case, that there has only been the focus on one person, one suspect.
It certainly seems it.
But it's not the first time the foster mother has been in police sights. Gary Jubelin, lead investigator in the case for 4 years until 2019, reported to Mick. Were you satisfied when you were head of Homicide with Gary Jubelin under you that he had properly examined the foster mother or the foster father as well and eliminated them?
I was satisfied with what he told me. Now, in lots of these cases, globally around the world, relate to people around, missing children. So I asked Gary and said, "Are you sure? Are you convinced that they're not involved?" Now, he assured me that he had investigated that line of inquiry quite aggressively, and I took him on his word.
Since leaving the police in controversial circumstances for illegally recording a potential suspect, later cleared, Gary Jubelin has been publicly supported by William's foster mother, leading some to question his objectivity. If I played devil's advocate, there might be current and or former police who would say you got it wrong in your 4 years, and that perhaps you were too close to the foster family, the foster mother in particular, and that you did investigate it properly. And that you faced prosecution for your involvement in all of that as well. So therefore you are tarnished. Your reputation isn't solid enough to say categorically the foster mother's not involved. What would you say to that criticism of you in the 4 years that you ran it?
I accept people are entitled to their opinions. What I would say, and what I'm comfortable sitting here and saying, and can I reiterate the fact that if you are running an investigation in the disappearance of a 3-year-old child, you need to be accountable. And you need to be scrutinised, the work that you've done. It's a very important role. I stand by what I did during the 4 years I ran the investigation. During that 4 years, we ran a covert and overt operation, a fairly intense operation on the foster mother. There was no evidence that was suggestive of the foster mother having knowledge or involvement in William's disappearance.
Gary finds it difficult to believe the alleged police scenario, that William fell from the balcony and his death was covered up. If he's fallen off the balcony, been unconscious or died...
Possible.
But then for the foster mother, father and the grandmother at that location to then switch their mindset into covering up the death of a 3-year-old that they would have to pick up, remove, hide, and do something with that little boy's body.
It doesn't make sense to me. A 3-year-old child falls off a balcony, instantly you decide, I'm going to cover this up. I think the natural reaction would be, let's call the ambulance. There would be panic. I don't see the benefits of covering up a crime like a child having an accident off the balcony.
For the police theory to be correct, a few things have to happen in very quick order.
Journalist Dan Box, who spent 4 years investigating the case for his new podcast, also has doubts about the police version of events.
How long has he been missing?
We've been looking for him now for about 15 or 20 minutes.
And later, his foster mother would get criticised for this call, for being too calm. People will say that a real mother wouldn't do that.
So William's foster mum has to find his body and decide not to call for help. There's no reaction, there's no shriek. Then she has to either convince her own mother and William's sister to join her in the conspiracy, or she has to lie to them convincingly because their accounts are consistent. Then she has to actually dispose of William's body, carry it into the car, drive it away, drive back.
This is a child she's cared for.
Child she's cared for. But then her husband arrives back within a few minutes, and she has to, again, either bring him into the conspiracy, and you can only imagine the conversation. Somehow she has to have all of those conversations within a very short time frame.
The theory of the current investigators is that something has happened here at the home, and the foster mother must know about it. When you investigated the case, did you ever find any forensic evidence to support that theory?
No. As simple as that. No, there's no forensic evidence to suggest that.
No blood, no anything?
No. It was looked at initially, whether there was an accident there, but there would be blood somewhere. You'd find some forensic evidence. There was no indication of that.
This is fascinating. So we walked through what we think the police theory is.
According to Dan Box, police believe William's foster mother disposed of his body at a very specific location.
They think he was disposed of at the crossroads of 2 roads, about a few minutes' drive from the house where he was reported missing. When you get there and you stand there at that point, you look up and there's a building right in front of you. It's an old riding school, maybe 50, 100 metres away, and there are windows. And you can't see who's looking out. And then you turn round behind you and there's a property there and another one there and a third one there. And you can't see who's looking at that spot. But if you'd gone a few hundred metres that way further down the road, it's just bush. So the police seem to be suggesting that William's body was disposed of at the point that feels most unlikely. When you get there, you think, there's no way I would try and disguise a crime here where I don't know if I'm being watched.
There have been countless crimes where seemingly heartbroken relatives turn out to be involved. But listen to William's foster mother speaking to investigators.
It's not right for him. We need to know. where he is, and we need to know what happened to him. Because we can't live forever like this. His sister can't grow up never knowing what happened to her brother.
Part of me actually hopes the police have got this right. Then that justifies everything they've done. That justifies all the attention, all the whispers, the leaks. All of that is justified. But if the police are wrong, and she's not guilty, and we haven't seen any evidence that she is, then what damage has been done to that family? And only one of those two things can be true.
10 years after William's disappearance, there seems to be no clue at all about what happened to him. No forensic evidence, no clear lead on any particular suspect. What went wrong with the investigation?
Well, all of these investigations, Michael, are challenging. The fact that there was no forensic evidence was a real challenge from the beginning, and lots of cases are solved on the back of forensic evidence. Certainly a lot of resources, a lot of effort has been put in over many, many years to try and find out what happened to William.
Well, it hasn't gone right, has it?
Well, at this point, nobody's been arrested and charged, or, importantly, William hasn't been found. So things progress over time. Sometimes these cases take years and decades to solve.
The coronial inquest into William's disappearance, which has been on hold for nearly 4 years, is due to reopen its hearings in November and conclude by the end of the year. And it's at the coronial inquest police may finally have to reveal what evidence they do or don't have implicating William's foster mother.
At that point, everything here has to come to a head. Either the police are right or the police are wrong.
What will the coroner deliver that the detectives can't right now?
I can only think that the police are hoping that someone will say something at the inquest that will give them the piece of evidence they're lacking.
Will you be watching that coronial inquest with interest?
Always. I think at the end of the day too, what sometimes is forgotten is what a missing little boy. And I think, the entire nation, if not the world, wants to understand what happened to him.
Do you hold hope, Gary, that we will get answers one day about what happened to little William?
Yes, I do, and I think everyone should hold out that hope. You've seen unsolved homicides from 30 years ago, 20 years ago, where answers are forthcoming. If I'm sitting here saying I believe there's human intervention in William's disappearance, someone knows something.